Welcome to Red Carpet Retirement. This podcast is all about helping business owners and those in the entertainment and creative industries secure and protect their financial future. We provide educational stories and specific strategies so you can achieve the red carpet retirement you so richly deserve. Now here's your host, Adam Scott.
Hello and welcome to episode 34 of Red Carpet Retirement. Today, we're going to be talking about reinventing your career pivoting. And I'm going to be discussing it with an amazing career coach, professional certified career coach, who's a dear friend of mine, Liz Mohler. Now, she spends her days advising people on this type of thing, so I thought it would be really good to discuss this matter with Liz. Hello and welcome to the show, Liz.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks again for inviting me.
Great. So Liz also describes herself as an executive and life coach, a career development consultant, and an encore career and life planning coach, which is absolutely what we're doing today. That encore career. I love that expression, Liz. You know, we can call it pivoting. We can call it transitioning. Reinventing your career, but I think that encore is great. Now, why have I chosen this for today's subject? I've actually chosen this because I was asked to. I was asked to by a particular film industry organization because, for those who don't know, Liz, are you aware that the film industry is really slowing down right now?
It's been a very difficult time here in Los Angeles, the mecca of the entertainment movie world, and from all sides of entertainment, there's been insecurity and discomfort and decline. So absolutely.
Absolutely. So kind of surprisingly enough, or maybe not too surprising if you've been out of work for a year or two, some members are starting to think, maybe I need to reinvent myself. And it's not just people in the movie industry, of course. My guess is that real estate agents, there are probably the real estate industry is slowing down. The mortgage loan industry has ground to a halt. So there are many different industries that may slow, and their members need to find another career, or just maybe your own personal career that you burn out, like I did in certain careers, and I decided to reinvent myself.
We also have a lot of people on the East Coast, especially, that were victims of the fork in the road, where unbeknownst to them, their organizations are being required to downsize and let people go. So layoffs is a huge topic of concern. So, yes, the reinvention and pivot has not just hit the entertainment industry, but all swaths of the United States are going through some very challenging times.
Absolutely. So hopefully we can provide some kind of useful stories and information. And we're actually going to do this this is going to be enough to transition over at least two podcasts. And today we're going to focus partly on my story and my wife's story and Liz's personal story and some other personal stories, because I'm the poster child for career reinvention. If there's one thing that I can really be proud of in my life, it's been my ability to reinvent myself. And I don't want to say it's easy, but I want to show that it really can be done.
I absolutely think that that's a key part of learning and growing, is hearing other people's stories and acknowledging that if they can do it, so can I. And it's very apropos that you came out of entertainment. And I'm not sure your audience knows that you were a financial planner secondarily to a whole other career that started in entertainment. So I'm really glad that your entertainment friends reached out to you and said, hey, we need to hear from you, because you've got a story to tell. And I'm excited to hear it, because I'm not exactly sure I know that much about your background and history. So I'd love to know, what did you want to be when you were growing up, and then where did you first launch?
Right. So if I can go back all the way to the beginning, in high school, or at university I studied economics. I was fascinated by economics. And on the side, I acted and I directed and I wrote plays. And I'd always been pretty successful at that. And I had a real passion for it. And at university, I didn't have to choose between these two passions of mine. But when it came to choosing a career, I felt I had to choose. And I actually I was kind of quite interested in being a stockbroker, but back in those days, I'm going to date myself, the 1970s, the stock market was absolutely dead for about 10 years. I mean, to me, I just thought it was over. Nobody made money in stocks anymore. And so I couldn't get into it. There was nothing going on. Also, you kind of had to be the son of somebody in the stock market. So I went and became a commodity broker, a commodity trader, which was also difficult to get into. And it was kind of the rip-roaring time very briefly, and then the commodity markets died. Meanwhile, I had friends from university who were quite successful in entertainment, and I realized, oh, wow, you actually can make a living. What my parents told me you can't make a living was not true. You can make a living. And so I left commodities and I made a small film, and I ended up getting a job at the BBC, which was not easy. It was not easy to do this, but I just fixated on that. And I have this saying that I didn't come up with this saying, but it's a saying I've adopted and I like. The universe will meet you at the point of action. And it does seem in my life when I've taken action, like leaving the financial industry, the commodities industry, making a short film, trying to get into the BBC. Eventually, the universe came together, and I got into the BBC in a very unusual way. I got into the BBC as it happened, and not through connections, by the way, not that unusual. I got in through the front door.
Wow.
I was accepted because I'd made this small film, and normally you had to be a stage manager in theater to get into the BBC doing the role I did. So I was an assistant director at the BBC. I wasn't very good as an assistant director. I have to confess, I wasn't great. I didn't enjoy it. And I thought, what's creative that I can do? Well, I had edited my own film. So I decided I'm going to try and get into editing. Very late in my 20s, I got into editing. And I happened to know, I was in England, but I happened to know a film editor in the United States. And I thought my opportunities might be better in America. And I was married to an American. I'm going to go to Hollywood, where I had this person who became my mentor. It is actually now a client. And so I came to Hollywood, and through this absolute freak of circumstance, he was able to give me a job. And it was, again, another freak of circumstance. And so I started this career in Hollywood, ended up as a film editor, got represented by ICM, which was like a major thing to get a big Hollywood agent. That's my story of how I got into the entertainment industry.
Well, and it is interesting because I hear you saying, stroke of luck or serendipity or the universe catching up with you. And I always like to tell my clients, there's no mistakes in life. We go through life, we take a different path, we follow a fork in the road, and we end up where we are. And we look back, and I like one of my Lizisms is that my definition of luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And you pursued a job at the BBC and you went in through the front door and you got hired, but it was probably based on a combination of things. And then I would venture to guess that there's some listeners on this call that dreamed of Hollywood and knew one person, and that one person believed in them and opened the door. And as they say in Hollywood, the rest is history. So I guess it's sort of helpful to share this story. And I'd love to dig in a little deeper and understand, sometimes we talk about the carrot and the stick, doing what we have to do or doing what we want to do. Do you have an opinion or an epiphany of when you started to think about the carrot and the stick?
Right. So the carrot and the stick of me leaving the entertainment industry would, I thought about it for quite a long time, but probably from quite early days when I was an assistant editor, because it's a tough life. You don't see your family, you don't see your kids. It can be feast or famine. I mean, the kind of things that people are going through right now. And so I was always looking for an out, but I couldn't think of it or couldn't find it. And also I thought, well, look, the higher up I go, the better and better it'll be. And eventually when I kind of got to where I was trying to get to, I felt like actually the sacrifices I was making were even greater. I had a lot of trouble with my kids, talking about a stick that had a pretty dysfunctional relationship at the time with my oldest son. And it's great now. It's a wonderful relationship, but it did get quite dysfunctional. I'd been away for a long time, and he said to me, "I don't want to make people who might have shared similar experiences feel too pain. But he said to me, he did something out of order, and I was correcting him and said, you can't tell me what to do. You're never around. You don't live here. I'm the man of the house now.
Wow.
And he
Yeah.
was like 12 years old.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I had a young daughter, a 2-year-old daughter, and I wanted to be around for her.
Yeah.
So that really inspired me to look to leave. I was also, the kind of movies they were making were not movies that I personally liked going to see. They do more so now, but back then there was a time when they didn't. I wasn't into big summer blockbusters, to be candid, which kind of paid the mortgage. And then also, I was also always interested in financial planning, doing my own financial planning. I had a business, right? I had a business as a film editor. I rented out equipment as a business owner. So I knew a lot about taxes. I was very interested in different tax strategies. And from my days as a commodity trader and studying economics, I was always very interested in investing. I was quite financially successful, so I was taking care of my own investments. And as far as a carrot was concerned, I had a very wealthy friend who was always asking me for advice and wanting me to come and take care of their finances. And I used to think, are they going to pay me to do this? Or is it like when I'm out of work, I'm meant to come and help them? And I, so that was always in the back of my mind. And so I would think about it. And when I was working till 1:30 in the morning, like day after day, week after week, never seeing my kids, I would think, maybe I should change. But some of the biggest obstacles, or the biggest obstacle was I saw myself as a storyteller. So,
Mm.
I just thought like I couldn't give up this identity of myself, and I couldn't see myself wearing a suit. So it, yeah, I kind of had to overcome those. But leading up to the financial crisis, I really became obsessed. I just became obsessed about what was going on in the American economy, trying to protect myself and trying to protect my friends. And when the financial crisis happened, well, after like I had friends on Wall Street who said it wasn't going to happen. When it happened, I just thought, I'm in the wrong place. I should not be in Hollywood making movies I don't want to go and see. I should be helping people with their finances because that's what I'm really passionate about.
I love that. And I think that if I unpack a little bit of that, I hear this all the time with my clients. They explain to me that what they set out to do in the world when they were thinking about themselves and where they wanted to be, and then they get married, they start raising kids, and the values shift. And what served them at the first part of their career is not serving them at that second stage. And so really taking a step back and going, wait, 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 what's important to me now? And then it's also very important to understand that sometimes we can't see it because we're so in the woods and all we can see is the trees that are in front of us. And it takes a good friend on the outside to say, hey, you're really good at finances or financial planning. And sometimes we dismiss those voices that are coming at us from the outside saying, hey, have you ever thought of ABC? Because we're so close to the trees of no, 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 this is all I've ever done. And so we hang on more tightly, but eventually what we're hanging on to just starts to get brittle and uncomfortable. And we have to just take that break. And so I always recommend that my clients start to really pay attention to what their friends are saying or what their family members are saying, and maybe even ask some of those friends and family members, if I wasn't to do entertainment, if I wasn't to stay in real estate, what do you see me doing? What do you see are my strengths or my passions or my interests? What else is out there? Is a key change in your core values. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Liz. I think that's a great thing to ask, your loved ones. If I wasn't doing this, what do you think I should be doing? Or, um, and and it's kind of ironic because, as I say, I saw myself as a storyteller. And one thing that really helped me was I was doing a course, Landmark Forum, a very California kind of course. If people remember it or know it, maybe it's still out there.
Many
My
of my
wife,
clients have been through that
right.
self-exploration,
Yeah.
self-curiosity programs.
I was so resistant to doing that. My wife did it, and then she bullied me into doing it. So I did it, and I got to say, it was very helpful for me. So there was this kind of coach young man who was involved in the program in the role of a coach. And I remember driving home late at night from work. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And I called him up and I said, can you believe it? I called him. I feel like it was 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And I called him up and whatever his name was, I'll call him Joe. Joe, I'm thinking about becoming a financial advisor, but I'm a storyteller. I just can't give that up about myself. And Joe says to me, Adam, there's storytelling in being a financial advisor. There is storytelling in everything.
Yeah.
And this penny just kind of dropped. And I'm like, wow, how does he know that? I mean, I don't think he did know that. But he just had this. What he knew was storytelling is in everything. And he is so right, right? I mean, look at me doing this podcast today. I'm not saying I'm a great storyteller, but this is what I love to do, right?
Right.
And it's so much in so many jobs. Being a storyteller is so critical. So I'm still a storyteller, that quintessential thing, even though I've done this career transaction. Um, tr tr
Yeah.
sorry,
You're
not transmission,
transitioning.
career
Yeah.
transformation that is about as radical as most people would see. A film editor to being a finance guy, a financial advisor. But actually, there is this common thread of storytelling in both. And there's a lot of other common things. And to be honest, if you're really good at things, if you're a very diligent worker, you know, that can translate to every other field. I mean, I think in the film industry, there are so many brilliant people who would, man, they would just have wings in other areas. They're so much better than most of the people in other lines of work because the film industry is so competitive and so difficult to even survive in, let alone thrive in.
Right. Yeah, I think that we dismiss our skills that come naturally to us. Those of us that are storytellers, those of us that love to network, love to meet new people and make connections that other people don't see those connections, we kind of dismiss that as not really being a skill. And then we start to realize, wait a minute, actually people will pay me to do this. I remember when I was first doing some public speaking and I was on a stage and I was just speaking to other career coaches and I was doing a seminar and a workshop and I gave a lot of great advice and told some stories. And then I got off the stage and somebody said, wow, you're really good at this. Are you a professional speaker? And I thought, oh, no, no, I just speak at these conferences. And they said, no, you're really good. Like we have a conference coming up and we're going to pay you to speak. And I thought, oh my gosh, I would speak for free because I love it so much. We also talked about a little bit about where you grow up and that you are in an environment where it's easier to follow in the footsteps of a mom or a dad. And in career coaching, I call that the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree. So we grow up knowing such a minimal window of what a career is. We know what a doctor does, we know what a policeman does, we know sort of the basics. But when we get out into the world of work, we start to realize there's so many more things we can do. So the fact that my father was a professor, it made it seem like, well, that's an easy job. He gets to go and talk to students and teach in front of a class every day. And it's not unusual that I have been offered jobs teaching as a professor because we sort of see that. Then we get into it and sometimes we start doing it for a while and then we realize, oh, I'm not sure I really want to do this anymore. And I would bet there's some people watching right now who have that scenario of doing something that came natural, came easy, but maybe they got promoted or they worked their way up the ladder and then they wake up one day and they're like, this is my life. I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. Or some of my young clients that I'm working with that are 25 to 30 that are like, this is what I studied all, through high school to get into college to get a good job. And now I don't see my friends. I don't get to have any fun. I'm just stuck in front of a computer. And they're at a break point of maybe what they were going for isn't really what they want anymore. There's a term for it. We call that the Peter principle. Sometimes we get promoted up beyond and away from the things we really like to do and the things we're really good at. And we need to take two steps back and hopefully have somebody we can talk to. That's a great story that you were thinking something, but if you hadn't put words to it or told somebody else, it might have just gotten stuck in your head and you wouldn't have pursued it. But you had somebody to say, yeah, I do think that you can do that. You can be a storyteller in finance just as much as you're a storyteller in entertainment. So
Right.
it's good to have those
Yeah.
positive people around us.
Absolutely. And I was fortunate that well, we had another writer's strike back then when I was really looking for an out. And so the movie industry died for the better part of a year. It was also the Great Recession, so 2008 leading into 2009. So basically, this all happened around 2008. And so even though I just got this great agent, the phones stopped ringing. Nothing was going on. So I knew I could explore this other career while I didn't have to turn things down. And so I remember going on to online and looking up like best midlife career changes, and financial advisor was at the top. I never thought I could do this midlife. My sister was like a top stockbroker in London. This is a little different, but that role has morphed into what I do today. But I mean, she retired at like in her early 30s. So to me, it was a young person's game. And so the idea that you could do this midlife was an eye opener to me. The other thing is I looked at a list, another list of top. I think I just saw this random list of like best quality of life jobs. Number one was financial advisor, and so again I felt wow, the universe is telling me something, and so I decided to research how to do this, and I started looking into these exams. And actually, there's one last sort of thing around this that I was doing this very secretly and very quietly. We went to a party, and my wife, I'm going to use the word, blurted out to somebody, blurted out to the hostess, Adam's thinking about becoming a financial advisor. And I thought, I mean, I've got a top Hollywood agent. I've got my whole network is people in the industry. I don't want people to suddenly think I'm going to become a financial advisor. And, maybe I'm about to get offered a movie and that movie will go away. And so I was not very happy with her. But the hostess said to my wife, oh, so-and-so, our neighbor is a financial advisor. He's sitting over there on the couch at this party. Adam should talk to him. My wife comes up and tells me. And after I've got over my sulk, I go up and talk to the man. And this man becomes an absolute pivotal connection in my career transition. So again, I just want to say about the universe. I mean, I didn't even act at that point, but thank goodness my wife did act, right? And that happened. But going back to your point, Liz, that luck meets whatever, preparation meets opportunity.
Yep.
So I was prepared. I'd done a lot of thinking about it. I had not taken the exams. They ended up facilitating me taking some of those exams.
Right. Well, and you also had a really, really good point that I want everybody to hear. When you get curious, the energy will flow. So you were obviously curious, and it sounds like you started to research financial planning. Who do I know that does financial planning? And then you've got a sister who does it. And then it's about learning about it. And I love the Google search idea. What are the best top industries to explore? Or what are the best transferable careers for somebody who's got 20 years experience in ABC? And we now live in an information abundant world where we can go on ChatGPT and we can put in our resume and say, hey, what else could I do? But then we have to have the faith and the confidence to step into it and to acknowledge that you're not going to be successful alone. I always like to tell my clients the number one most effective way to get a really good job is through a connection. It's your network. It's finding somebody doing what you want to do, asking them how they got there. And then it's always easier to follow a paved road than it is to strike out on your own independently. I mean, many people in the entrepreneurial industry kind of know this, which is why I love coaching my entertainment clients, because they're hustlers. They know how to sell themselves. They're possibly, trying to find their next commercial, their next show, their next script. They're trying to pitch something all the time. And those innate skills of selling themselves can be easily transferred over to digging in and doing the research on something new. And I
Yeah,
think that shows what you did. And your wife, what kind of work did she do and what was her background?
right. Yeah. No, yeah. I just want to address before I get to that, Liz, your point there that I hadn't even thought about. The people in the film industry, uh, those who work freelance, and mostly I'm talking about those who work freelance, have to be amazing self-starters. They have to take action. They would never have got into the film industry and they wouldn't keep getting work if they didn't network, if they didn't take action, they didn't pick up the phone and call people. And I just realized that skill that I had, and I don't want to say I was a champion at that skill, because I didn't think I was very good at doing that. But whatever. I had taken action to get into the industry. And so I had that skill set of taking action, which not many people have in the world, that I think enabled me to get to transition out of the industry. So with my wife, taking action was critical too. That my wife was started out as an interior designer. We had kids. She was a stay-at-home mom. She really wanted to get back to work, but by the time she had been a stay-at-home mom for a while, she got very depressed and despondent and said that she was unhireable. By the way, I've heard that more than once from other people who then do get hired. So don't think you're
Sure.
unhireable.
Nobody
And
is unhireable.
is
There's a job
unhireable.
out there for
Right.
everyone.
Right. Even if you haven't been working is, or
Yes.
in that field. So my wife, what happened is she started getting very passionate about building a library in our community and started working, whatever you want to call it, service work in getting a library built. Through that, she met people in the county. Then completely unsolicited, after a couple of years, she got this job offer. They asked her because she was so active with the local, the county, whatever they call it, commissioner, I can't remember, supervisor, right? The local supervisor's office, who she got to know really well, reached out and said, "Hey, we need somebody like you. Why don't you come and work here?" So she did that for a while. Then she got kind of very burned out after a number of years. It's very political, believe it or not. Not with a big P, like with a small p, office politics. Politicians are very office politics, political.
Yep.
And and she just couldn't handle it. And so she, after about 10 years, she looked for another route. And I had actually met somebody who was doing development for universities. And I said, you'd be great at this. People really like my wife when she meets them. She's very enthusiastic. I always felt she'd be a great salesperson, but she was never interested really in selling per se. But she's kind of a people person. And this person was doing development for one of the universities. And I said to her, "You should do that." She just brushed it off. No, not interested. How would I get into that? A couple of years go by, and somebody else must have mentioned this to her. And suddenly she got the idea of doing it. And she started asking about it at UCLA, asking all her friends that she knew at UCLA about doing this, about doing development, raising money for UCLA. Oh, my wife had raised money for the elementary school, and she
Ah,
was really good at it, right? She didn't mind picking up the phone and asking people for money, right? That was a rare skill to me. I think that's why I mentioned she should look at doing
sales.
money raising for universities, and she initially blew me off. Anyway, she ended up getting a job at UCLA. Again, it was a freak circumstance because normally they hired very young people, but she happened to hit on a lady who decided they wanted to hire older, more mature people who were the kind of parents of the students' age to be doing development. So my wife got hired, and so she worked at UCLA for 10 years. So yeah, that's her story.
Everybody has a story, and it's so interesting to see the patterns of what we do to ourselves. We are not very kind to ourselves. I could never do that. I don't know enough. I'm too young. I'm too old. I can't do this. I can't do that. And when we let that go and we put that curiosity cap on, and then we go, well, maybe I could, but I don't know. And that's when, with my clients, I have to sort of send them out to find out for themselves. Go talk to somebody doing the kind of work you kind of sort of think you maybe want to do, because I will support them on whatever adventure they want to go on, as long as it's not crazy, Al Qaeda chaos jobs. I will tell them, if you want to go make beer at a small brewery in Wisconsin, I'm going to support you on that. If you want to go start a tequila company in Mexico, I will support you on that. If you want to go into public relations and media, I will support you. Where there's a will, there's a way, but do the research. And
Absolutely.
another of my Lizisms is, be careful what you go for you could surely get it.
Mm,
So test the waters, talk to as many people as you can, get out there and do the research and really come full circle to possibilities and opportunities. And yet that's really hard for a lot of people. They're feeling like, this is all I know, this is all I've done. And we get into this minimal mindset and we don't get into the expansion mindset.
absolutely. And Liz, you're so right to talk about be careful what you wish for, right? Because in terms of that universe meeting at the point of action, almost anything in life that I have dreamed about, thought about, has ended up happening. except for being the greatest French director since Francois Truffaut, or the Hollywood version. That bit didn't work out, but everything else pretty much has. And sometimes things have worked out, and I realize this is not where I want to be. So I think, yeah, research is really important. But also on a more positive note, in talking to people, yeah, get out there and talk to people, find out about different things. But also, as you ask people for information about things, it's just amazing. Like when I met that man at the cocktail party, how it can grow into productive connection. You don't want to ask them for anything at the beginning. Just ask them for a chat, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest parts of the coaching that I do is coaching people to reach out for help. It's not, you don't need to be embarrassed or shy or, there's nothing wrong with you if you say, I don't know what's next. I don't know what to do. And there's so many people out in the world that want to help you if you're open and ask for some help. There's a plethora of people who say, you know what, I can't afford a coach, or I don't have the time for a coach, or I have to just keep doing what I'm doing. And then they get to that point where the rug gets pulled out from underneath them. They get fired. They get a pink slip. They get laid off. And then they really do need the help. So I always tell my clients, you can only do so much work individually by yourself alone. It's really hard to find a job. It's really hard to make a pivot in isolation.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
But I won't be say it's surprisingly easy as long as you create a team around you. But I would just say that uh, it can be done. It will happen. If you set your mind to it, it will happen. It will materialize. Again, I'm not saying, hey, I want to be I want to be Mick Jagger. I'm going to become like Mick Jagger at the age of 55. Maybe that's not going to happen.
Right.
But save that, right? Just more, I hate to even use the word realistic. I'll sound like my parents. But find a job where people are needed. Ideally, it's at something you would love that other people hate doing. Like, not everybody loves helping people with their finances. I happen to really, really love it, right? But hey, I know one of my biggest clients has a travel company. I hate organizing travel. I mean, I hate packing my suitcase. I was out at dinner with her the other night. I said, I couldn't stand doing what you do. She's incredibly successful. She doesn't want to do what I do, so she hires me for it. Another of my clients has a very successful catering company. It would give me a nervous breakdown to be doing catering events. So find something you love that not everybody loves, right? Everyone wants to be a rock star. So even I want to be a rock star and I can't sing, right? So maybe you don't want to go and do that. Do something that not everybody wants to do. I guess that's a little bit of advice I give. But we need to be wrapping it up. The good news is we're going to continue another podcast on this subject where we're going to talk more. Liz is going to give more proactive advice. And we're going to talk about some of the prime candidates for doing a midlife career change in the way that I found being a financial advisor. And hey, we can even talk about that, right? Or reach out to me to talk about that. But we'll talk about other careers that are ripe for transitioning into midlife.
That's a great topic. And the other part of it that I sometimes encourage my clients to consider is what chapter of life are they in? And is it about work because you need the money, or is it work because you want a sense of agency? You're feeling like you could retire. It's not about the money, but you're in that third and you're trying to figure out, what am I going to do for the next 20, 30 years? If I do let go of this dream that I had, if I do acknowledge that I have enough to retire, what's next? So I hope we can have a little bit of time to dig into that next time we talk as well. That would be
Yeah,
fun.
that would be really fun. I must say it's really close to my heart, and to working with my clients, the kind of thing that we is core to my business and helping clients. So yeah, Liz, I'm excited to carry on this conversation in next month's podcast. You and I will talk about it way before then, but it'll come out a month after the one that you're listening to. So thanks so much for joining me today, Liz. This has been really fun to talk with you.
Absolutely.
So
This is
Liz,
I think you're about to say, so Liz, how do people get a hold of
yeah,
me?
absolutely.
That's what's fun is that I do love meeting new people. I'm based in Los Angeles, but I can say that I've got clients all over the world now. I do a lot of executive coaching for women in the C-suite who are trying to work their way up in the C-suite or get on boards of directors, things like that. But I also like working with the young people that are stuck. So the diversity of clients is so much fun. I do have a website. It's my name, Liz Mohler, LizMohler.com. I also try to be a little active on LinkedIn. Not so good on Facebook and Instagram, but you can find me on LinkedIn, and my email is available there. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me that you saw this podcast and tell me what your two takeaways are. Hopefully, one of our stories resonated or gave you an idea or of a thought to research or a person to connect with. And I'm here to support anybody that's going through a transition.
Great. Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you so much.
And of course, thank you so much to our listeners. I really appreciate you listening to this, and please share it. There are so many people in need for this advice right now. Please share it with your friends and family or anybody you can think of. And I'd be really grateful if you could subscribe. So just take a moment to subscribe, and please leave a comment and a review for our podcast. And of course, you're always welcome to reach out to us and ask us for any advice at Wellacre Wealth. That's WELL, well, acre as in acre of land, wellacrewealth.com. And you can contact us through our website, or you can just call us on 310-220-4946. And so till next time, I look forward to joining with you all again. And thank you again, Liz, and talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Wellacre Wealth Management, LLC. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content should not be considered as legal or tax advice, nor is it intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor and consult with your own legal and tax professionals before taking any action.